Welcome back. Carlos and Ronit Nebrayev lost their son Elon in the Champlain Towers collapse. Their pain is unimaginable, but so is their anger. This was not an act of God, they told me. It was the negligence and corruption of man that led to this tragedy, which is why they cannot understand why the legislature has done nothing to improve inspections and make condos safer for the 3 million Floridians who live in them. And they don't understand why Governor Ron DeSantis has not made this a priority.
If the governor, whoever is in place, we know who is in place now, but I mean, I don't have anything against anybody. I'm just thinking that if that person would have sit with 1, 2, 3, 98 families and listen to what
But he did. He was there every day at the press conference.
For 3 weeks.
For 3 weeks.
And then there's crickets. Have you seen him on the news about Surfside, speaking about Surfside? I've heard him speak about many things. I have not heard him speak of Surfside.
They are in their position because of us. They should be thinking the same thing I am thinking. I'm not asking them what they think. I know that I am 100% right about how to go about it in the best way as possible. No governor should be looking for lose any constituents, number one. Any governor should be looking into what we can do to prevent these tragedies again. And every governor should be doing whatever they have in their power to make this an example for the whole world in the good sense. What we have now is a very good example of what should not have happened. And he's part of that. Regardless what he thinks or what I think, it's just, I'm talking by facts.
Is it fair to say that prior to all this, you were a supporter of DeSantis?
And I may still are.
Let's see what he does.
You know, this phrase keeps coming to my head. Make America great. And isn't DeSantis a Republican? Wouldn't it be great that Florida be the role model? I'm not going to say whether I'm Republican or Democrat, and just because I repeat that phrase doesn't mean I'm one or not the other. But let's make Florida an example, and let's make Florida great. And crickets.
If they can do America great, but at least I only expecting for Florida. At least what can I do? Yeah. I cannot just ask or convince people in Virginia or other state to do X, Y, Z. Or Washington. But in Florida, everybody sounds like, for many reasons, after COVID, decide to move here. And we are feeling that. Mm-hmm. So, in the same line of business, I would say, let's be the example of something that everybody globally are looking into. Because honestly, if you ask me, if a building is older than 10 or 15 years, I would, today we haven't had the occasion, but I may not even go in. Why? I mean, if I can have a coffee out.
We've been burnt.
And that is not right either. Would you? Would you go?
After I spoke to them, I asked State Senator Jason Pizzo, who represents Surfside, if anything will happen next week.
We're going back on Monday for property insurance, and while I had hoped that we would also include something on the measure of condo reform, it just doesn't seem likely.
Why is that?
The Senate's position is pretty much aligned with the House position, as two bills have to run concurrent, with the exception of a great impasse on the issue of reserves. The House's position is to be completely inflexible and under no circumstances whatsoever to allow condo owners and condo boards to waive a requirement to have a certain amount of reserves on hand, where the Senate position is based on the particular part of the building or aspect or of the structure, to be able to allow the owners to make a deliberate decision to waive reserves with 2/3.
So if the only issue standing between getting something done on all the other issues and reserves, why not pass everything else except for the reserve portion and work on a compromise with regard to that for the upcoming session?
Well, by the time that your viewers see this, I will have already spoken to my counterpart, my colleague, Senator Jen Bradley, and my strong suggestion is we file what we have, what we do agree on, and move forward. And it should not be an all or nothing approach. Anything we do, Jim, and you know this is better as well as anyone, will improve the situations and the requirements for condominiums statewide. Right now, anything is only existing in Dade and Broward County. There's nothing that really takes a look at buildings. 60% that you reported are 30 years or older of the 1.5 million condos we have in Florida. So something should pass. And you know what? At this time, it's past time for something to pass, even out of respect and to the benefit and to the memory of the people in my district.
In talking to the families, you've spoken to the families, I've spoken to the families, they are incredibly frustrated, angry, and feel disrespected that nothing has been accomplished in Tallahassee to make things safer, to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. When you talk to these families, what are you going to be able to tell them at this point?
You know, I bought a little bit of time, by saying this is not a partisan issue and everyone's working on it and everyone's concerned. You know, the House sponsor and the Senate sponsor of the bills are both Republicans. This isn't a partisan issue. It's a people issue. But really, philosophically, the impasse is at one particular point of a multi-part bill. And again, out of respect and decency, we should pass at least what we agree on, because it's something. It's at least a demonstration. But it's not even insignificant. That which the House and the Senate agree on. You know what? Let me be clear, really, at this late hour. Okay, and I have tremendous respect for Representative Daniel Perez, but it's Danny Perez that's holding up the ability for 19 out of the 20 components to pass. And really, with all due respect, what I'll try to convey to my colleagues, both in the House and the Senate, is we should go forward and pass what we agree on. And that which we don't, we can revisit. But we certainly owe, to everybody. But right now, as late as yesterday afternoon, Representative Perez told me he's not budging on the inflexibility of reserves. And that's not really going to make anyone's condo operation safer anywhere in Florida by holding firm just on that one particular issue.
So by holding out on the reserve issue, you're not able to move forward on lowering the number of years before an inspection take place,
Correct.
Allowing actual inspections, requiring inspections in the other 65 counties outside of Dade and Broward, where there is no requirement for inspections.
Correct.
And all the other things, the greater transparency, the greater the reporting of what the findings are from those inspections to both city and county
educating
officials.
board members, Jim, making sure that board members are educated at least on the thousands or millions of dollars that they're controlling and the hundreds of lives that they're responsible for. That all gets held up.
But let's talk about the role that the governor played. Last week, we played some sound from you at a conference in Orlando in which you said the governor has been largely absent on this issue. The families I've spoken to are particularly angry that the governor has not used his voice. He uses his voice on a lot of issues, but when something like this comes around, he's eerily quiet. Why is that?
Jim, he's used his voice and his thumb to exert pressure and influence and drive the narrative this whole past regular session when we should have been doing the important things, okay? None of my colleagues on the Republican side of the aisle knew anything about or cared anything about or had any intention of doing anything on critical race theory, on don't say gay, on disrupting and disturbing Disney's operation of it. None of this stuff was on anyone's agenda that ran for office and sits in the Senate with me or sits in the House with my other colleagues. None of us had any concern or consideration for any of those things because they have nothing to do with the quality of life or improving people's lives or saving people's lives. What did everybody come together for in a nonpartisan, ecumenical fashion? Tragedies and triumphs and things that we should celebrate. The governor had absolutely no influence, no appetite, no concern whatsoever. 98 people died in my district. The governor came and did all kinds of sound bites and all kinds of, on camera and all kinds of promises and commitments, and he's gone. He's absolutely gone. Okay. So again, if we can get critical race theory and, stop woke and banning books and don't say gay, all of these things that have nothing to do with people's lives, like actual lives, it's beyond disrespect. It's beyond the pale. And he should be ashamed of himself when I have to face my constituents. What am I supposed to say? I can get some cheap points by pointing fingers, but it doesn't get anything done. It doesn't improve anyone's life. He did nothing.
So because it's not part of the session, the only way that this may be able to come up is by adding it as an amendment to the insurance bill.
We're not going up for a special session on farming equipment and then looking to, to slip in an amendment on building codes and inspections of condominiums. Property insurance, it goes across all property classes and types. And one of the components that you're speaking of requirements is for every 36 months for a condo to be reappraised for replacement purposes. And that's rarely done around here. So yeah, the germanity would be there. And Jim, I'll tell you, I'll show my cards. I think my intention is going to be to file the amendment, which is the bulk of the bill, the last Senate version. I'm going to attempt to file it, and we'll see if it's accepted in the Senate, and we'll see if it's even heard in the House.